Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
Hey Bill, how you doing?
Oh, so good. So good right now. I had a hard day yesterday though.
Why?
It was just hard. It was just one of those days where, I wanted to, I do a lot of cooking, right? So,
Okay.
my wife and I, when we started dating, we did cooking schools together and did like
Gosh.
50, by the way, if you ever want to get romantic fast, take cooking classes together, right? And
I mean, I have gotten romantic fast before, and it wasn't in a cooking class, but this is good to know.
It's so true. But and so one of my specialties is chili verde. I just love a great chili verde. And I smoke it. I put it on a smoker to really, it's just, yes. Is that a
Did you
question
say
mark?
chili verde? Is it
Yes.
verde?
Okay, verde, it's fine. If you want to,
Just making sure we're talking about the same thing.
we are. It's the same. And
Okay.
and so I was trying to get my smoker going and it was giving me a bunch of trouble. And then I had a bunch of other problems with I was setting up a speaker so I could be out there working on it. And the Bluetooth speaker wouldn't work with my phone. It kept shutting off. And I just wanted to throw everything yesterday. It was just a wild day.
Yeah.
That's why today I am excelente.
I'm so glad.
Because I get to walk away from all of that and do this with you today.
Yes.
So,
And I actually called you yesterday on the telephone.
You
and
did.
you were at Starbucks.
It's funny. You're not the boomer on this show, and you make that weird.
Yeah, that's a very boomer move.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
Elder
Yeah.
millennials, we had phones, okay?
Yes.
It was cordless, but I had to punch in buttons on the phone, the landline, and get in trouble if I was calling long distance.
And I'd like to point out that it's odd that I answer calls when she calls, and yet when I call her, I'll stop there. I'm sure some of our listeners that know Sarah are aware of what I'm saying. So go on. I can't be the only
have
one.
a business and 3 children and a husband. I have a lot going on. So I'm sorry that when you call me, it usually goes to voicemail.
Usually,
Not that you're not a priority. It's just I am a busy lady, booked and busy.
By the way, for all of our faithful listeners, we book these 3 months in advance and put them on a calendar because if I don't, I can't get her. So,
Well, I do want to just interject. I'm
Yes.
listening to the
Yes.
book called The 90s by Chuck Klosterman. And
yes.
this morning, the chapter of the book was all about the telephone and how before, when we had phones in our home, you answered it. You answered it or you took it off the hook. And now it's nobody answers their phone. Like, it's like, I'm the same way. It's like, I don't know that number. I'm not picking it up. But just how things have shifted, since the 90s. And like when you made plans, you hung up the phone and like you had to go meet your friend where you said you were going to meet them, and
Right.
things were just like so much more concrete. And now it's just this constant. So anyway, the 90s, it's a great book.
I think I have
you
read
should read
this.
it.
And Christine, I want to echo this with you because that is such a really good shout out to the way it was, right? Because when I was raised with a au pair from that had some daughters, and the daughters would sneak into the dining room and be on the phone, the corded phone, right at 1 a.m, making those calls, trying to sneak it in. And if it rang, they'd be right there to pick it right up, right? And of course, the mom would always be totally aware and coming out, and right, just that dynamic. And the mom would leave it off the hook and leave it on top so that, right. And that dynamic is great. And I love the second part of what you said, because I always tell my friends, well, why send why send one text when 43 will do to tell us we're meeting at that beach or we're meeting it right? And it's made life different. I don't know that it's always made it better, right? Because
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, both ways, right? There's pluses and minuses, but
yeah.
it's an interesting. I just hadn't thought about the telephone like that in a long time.
It's so changed how we do it. And you're right. She called me, and I took her call yesterday. So
That is true. I
mm,
just would like to state, though, one of
hmm
our tropes, Christine, is that I am an elder millennial, and Bill here is a infant boomer because he technically falls 1 year into the Gen Xers,
Yeah.
but I still consider him a boomer in many ways,
wow.
which he
See,
loves.
That's kind of rough, Sarah.
I
Wow.
thank
know, I
you.
know,
I'm
but that's the
surprised
Thank
you're
type of
getting away with
relationship we
that.
have, okay?
Christine. You come back.
I'm also a Gen Xer.
You
So
you come back as much as you want. This is fantastic.
I'm here for you, Bill.
I
Yes.
and
Sarah.
people that tell me you're not a Gen Xer, I'm like, yeah, piss off. You know what? I don't take it away from me. I'm 1 year in. Don't
Yeah.
it was a
And
solid year.
I'm 1 year, like I'm 1 year almost out. Like I'm 1 year before being out. So we are really like the Gen X spectrum here.
Straddling the
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I just want to say for the millennials out there, we also had all of these experiences because I grew up with a landline where, you know, we couldn't call long distance, and my friends and I in our small town would set up a tent in our backyard for like a Saturday night slumber party, and we would sneak the cordless phone back there and try to call boys, but it was always long distance because of course the boys you wanted to call didn't live in your town, and so you had to be super quick about it, and you're like, call, call, call. And, so we had those experiences. It's just we also then in high school got Nokia cell phones where we could
Oh.
eventually T9 word. I actually remember sending my first text message. It was before anyone was texting. I was playing with my phone and I realized it could happen. I sent a text to one of my friends, and I remember she called me immediately afterwards and was like, "Why did you send me that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I was just playing with my phone." She's like, "Never do that again. It's so weird."
That's great.
Hilarious in
Oh my
hindsight, knowing where we're at.
God. Nokia. I'm just surprised I had a Motorola StarTAC, right? The little flippy
Yeah.
one, right? I loved that. My Nokias were built. They were so good. So
I
I'm,
would love one of those now. I heard they're coming back. Christine, you have teens. Have you heard this? I've heard that they're re-releasing those Nokia phones.
I feel like my stepdad would like that. I don't know if my kids would like that,
Well,
but
no, I
yes.
don't think the kids are supposed to like it.
Got it. Got it.
I
I
think the
mean,
parents
maybe
like it.
yeah, yeah. I always like that kind of like dream about what it would be like to have zero access, like go back to that time. I do think there's like a 6 month span in my future where I'm going to be like,
I
peace out.
see that for you. Because
Yeah.
you like to run and go on trips, right? You go to other countries even and explore. So I feel like you're on the verge of kind of off the gridding a little bit.
Yeah. It would have to be like the kids, they're still like they need their mom phase. So it would have to be in maybe 10 years. But
Yeah,
I'll let you know when it happens.
please do. I'll need to know why you're not answering my calls. Uh, this is a great segue into what we're doing today. So I just want to introduce everyone to our special guest, Christine Weeks. Christine is the founder and CEO of Eleanor Creative. They are a branding and marketing firm for the Midwest. They are located here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I have the wonderful privilege of working with Christine. She's invited me into her office to work with her team on Clifton Strengths, and they did my high performing team program. And she is just a local business owner who has always been a wonderful influence and mentor for me. And so I am delighted and so pleased that she is joining us today as we talk about her Clifton strengths and her experience with strengths. So, yay! Welcome, Christine.
Welcome,
What a
welcome,
what
Christine.
a sweet introduction. Can we
Yeah.
just take a moment, Sarah, and congratulate you on how you've implemented your brand already, like on the microphone
Oh yeah.
and behind you.
Yeah.
Like you really did it. So I'm
Thank
Yeah.
you.
impressed.
Yeah,
I
that
like that.
and by the way, today's the first time I've seen the one on the microphone. We had to talk about it for 20 minutes this morning prior to getting you on. So, and
Like, oh, what?
I
What?
personally want to thank Christine for being here, my fellow Gen Xer, incredibly smart and knowing when I'm being abused
That's right.
and rightfully wrong. So,
That's right.
yeah.
I'm here to
Hashtag
spot
elder
it.
abuse. Sorry about it.
Oh, see? Do you see? Man.
We might have to edit that out,
Uh,
Sarah.
you know
Oh, I
what?
know.
I I leave them in so
All
when
jokes,
everybody
friends.
knows, everyone
All
knows.
jokes, all jokes, all jokes. We're just
I
here
I
bantering
love it.
around. Anyways, yes, Christine and her team actually did my brand. So how lucky am I? Not only have I got to do Clifton Strengths with her team, but I was
Oh,
so blessed when I recently went through a rebrand. So I used to be Collins Career Coaching, and my business focused a lot on career coaching, resumes, cover letters. And it over the years has really evolved to be more business specific, using Clifton strengths for teams, leaders, managers, and the brand needed an update. So Christine's team so graciously worked with me to give us Collins Collective as we know her today with this beautiful logo and all these wonderful colors that I feel like just capture me so well. She really works with a premium team and she really is a excellent leader for them in so many ways. Christine, I gave a little synopsis of your business at the top. Anything else you would add for the people listening about Eleanor?
Sure. I mean, do you want the Eleanor story or do you just want to what do you want,
I
Sarah?
always love stories. I was thinking just about what y'all do, what you're about, and then I
Sure.
want your
Yeah.
story, which can roll into the Eleanor story.
oh
Perfect.
wait, I'm confused. Who's Eleanor? I don't. Wait
Eleanor.
a
Yeah,
minute.
Wait a
I
So
know.
second.
hold
So
on.
when I started this, it's like 16 years ago is the time. I knew I was going into the industry as a female entrepreneur. I didn't want to name it after myself because that was not something I wanted to do. Sorry, Sarah. I know you're Collins Collective. I shouldn't say that when I'm talking to you like
It's
this.
okay.
But I wanted a strong female name, and my grandmother was like the pinnacle person in my life, just full of goodness. And then Eleanor, right throughout history, has been a strong female name. So I think people thought I was a little crazy, but I did it anyway, and here we are. Yeah. So Eleanor offers brand positioning, website design, marketing. We do a lot of fundraising campaigns, capital campaigns for nonprofits. We um, do a lot of events. So we kind of do it all in the marketing branding space.
Yes, and you do it so well. Do you have any of the brands that you've worked on that you want to shout out if people are like, "Oh, I want to see some of their work." Do you have any that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I
Other
mean,
than Collins Collective. I mean,
Other
right,
clearly,
than
right,
this one,
right.
right.
obviously.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like Christine took pity on me when she worked with me because she is
No,
much bigger. She has clients that are so much bigger and better and more impressive than little baby me.
I did not take pity on you. I adore you, Sarah, and I think you're really talented at what you do. So it was a pleasure to work with you and an honor. So, yeah, we work with Dorothy Lynch, which is a Midwest famous brand. Bill, have you heard of Dorothy Lynch?
I don't believe I have.
The
Oh, you
So
salad
need to
dressing?
send
You've never heard
him.
of Dorothy Lynch? Well, take note, folks. Dorothy Lynch,
I'm in.
delicious
Dorothy
salad
Lynch, yeah.
dressing.
So that's been a fun project. We're actually in the middle of a rebrand for them. Obviously, their name's staying the same, but coming out with just a more fun, um, design and brand positioning, and they have like the most loyal following. So Dorothy Lynch has been great. We do Santos Energy, which is a Midwestern energy company. So they focus on solar and wind. We work with an international pump company, Massport Pumps, and that was our largest website to date, probably the most massive website we've ever done, and probably will do for a while. But yeah, so anything from Collins Collective to salad dressing to energy, manufacturing, we have a lot of clients. We really focus kind of on our Midwestern roots, and obviously happy to go anywhere else and do marketing and branding, but it's been fun to help companies right here that are
Well,
close to us.
can I ask you, Christine? So I love the story of why you named your company the way you named it, right? And I love the brands that you're working with. I love hearing how those are playing out for you. Can you tell our listening group your top, let's say your top 10? Because as we build this story, I think it'd be neat if people could think about, I'm hearing that, because I'm hearing so many things because I, of course, secretly have your top 10. But if others can hear that while they're doing it, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, well, this is quiz time. All right, I'm gonna see if I remember.
Oh,
Okay, input number one, context number two, strategic, learner, positivity, individualization,
the best theme,
developer.
individualization. Oh, no, developers not next, but that's okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
wait, hang on. Individualization, arranger,
Yes.
Yes.
responsibility,
Yes.
developer,
Yes.
belief.
Yeah.
Very,
Woo! We should make
very
everyone
nice.
quiz. I
That's
love it.
Yeah.
tough. That's hard to do. I wouldn't even do them in order all the time. So and I joked with you, individualization is the best because it's my number one.
Oh, that's great. I love individualization.
I do too.
I feel like that really is key in what I do at Eleanor. So I love that.
Well, I love that idea, thinking about that. So when you think about naming it and talking to grandma, right, and understanding grandma's, that context wells up for me. Thinking of that past and
Yes.
that
Yep.
history. Is that a part of that? Do you think? How does that play for you?
Yeah, context is huge for me. So anytime I meet with a client, anytime I'm meeting with an employee, like I need to know. Like today before we got on the call, I need, Sarah, how do you know Bill? Otherwise, I'm just very disoriented. I need to know when I go into a client, how long you've been in business, why'd you start, what are your values, what are your goals? Like question asking in overdrive. It really just helps me understand the people I'm working with and my team. I don't know if that's how I build trust or that's how I make sense of things, but I love it. I love that about me, and I love to knowing kind of why I am the way I am. So, yeah. And for my grandmother, she was incredibly humble. So, the first time I named something after my grandmother was my second child, and she, of course, was just so grateful, and just she would never she's so soft was so soft spoken about certain things. Then when I told her I was going to name my company after her, she was just like, what are you doing? You don't have to do that. And I'm like, no, like this is the way I'm going to treat my people, and the way I'm going to treat my clients is always going to be a testament to you and how she just like loved for the long haul, right? She loved in normal ways. Like I always say she was a very extraordinary, ordinary person. Like just, we had a routine that was, we got up and we'd, watch The Price is Right. And then we'd watch Cerise Cole on 10/11. And then we'd play cards. And then we'd make dinner. And then we'd watch a couple shows. I mean, our routine was just very normal, but I felt all the love, that I think some people might need more things to feel loved and cared for. And ours was just this ordinary way. And that's how I want it. That's what I want to do with my team. Just make it feel like this is just what we do. This is how we show up for people day after day. We love them in these normal ways that are not like super fancy, you know? So, yeah, there's the Eleanor tribute.
Uh, Christine, I love hearing you talk about this, and I think it's imperative that you tell people about the type of leader you are because I know you're super humble, but I have worked with a lot of leaders. I see people out in the community leading, and there is something special and unique about the way you work with your team and the things you do for them. So, can you just tell us a little bit about what your leadership style looks like and how you approach working and hiring and bringing on people to be a part of Eleanor?
Sure. I mean, I think because my background was unique in the sense of there were just a lot of hardships, I always felt so loved when people came in and gave me an opportunity to work. That was always the theme of my life. So, say I couldn't afford dance lessons. You know, the dance teacher allowed me to clean the studio so I could take dance lessons. If I couldn't afford to go to cheer camp, you know, my neighbor Sherry just come over and be like, "Hey, how about you babysit my kids all summer and I'll pay the down payment for your cheer camp and your cheer outfit." When I was, you know, in high school and I had to live in foster homes for some time, and I was also like working overnights in the local Happy Chef. That's a fun one to Google. You know, the administrators came and said, "We got to do something different." Because while I was had these hard things, I was also like a natural born leader, right? I was your student council president. I was the lead in the musical. I was doing all the things that a leader does in high school, but I was also working overnights at the local diner. So when they came to me and said, "Hey, how about you just go to school from 8 to noon and then you work at the local bookstore from noon to 5?" You know, like I felt like I had just won the lottery. Like somebody saw me, somebody was going to care about me in these very specific ways, but right, always work was at the center. And I that's just been ingrained in me. Like how can we have work be a place where people feel cared about, they feel valued, we see our employees, we kind of can anticipate needs before they might even know they have them. And so that's how I lead. And for me, it's like that's just what you do, right? Because so many people did that for me. So when I had 4 kids in 4 years, when I was pretty young, like between 23 and 27, I felt, you know, the effects of not having paid maternity leave, you know, not having to drop my kids off at daycare 12 weeks after, breastfeeding in bad break rooms that, you know, or toilets. And I'm glad I really got to experience that, right? This is 2003 to 2007. We just weren't where we are now, but I knew like if I ever do something as a manager or owner, like I'm going to take care of this maternity leave situation because that's a nightmare. And I'm going to, because we can, we're not a factory, we're not a hospital, but mothers can bring their babies to work that first 12 months. And then, you know, if they need to bring them or if they need to stay home if they're sick, we can accommodate that and making sure they have top tier health insurance because I've also been, you know, like had a baby and then it's like $13,000 later, you know, and I don't know from where how I grew up, you know, at 25, I just didn't have $13,000 sitting around to pay for that little precious child. So I think I've set up things in a way where, you know, I hope our young parents feel cared for and I hope I always say it's at every phase of life. So I will oftentimes have women in the community that I know that have maybe fallen on a hard time. They might not have marketing experience, but they need some skills to get out of the situation that they're in. So there's usually one or person always at the Eleanor table that is um, learning some skills to get them onto a better phase of life. So I'm very proud of that. And you know, our young interns, I hope when they come in, they see this is a little bit different and this should be the standard of what you look for in the future. And this is hopefully how somebody should care about you um, as an employee and give them kind of that basis to be like, this, you know what, this doesn't feel right. If they're in a job where they're like, mm, I just don't feel like they're really valuing my time and talent. So those are some of the things I do. But that was a very long answer to your question, Sarah.
It was so thorough and perfect, and I'm so glad you shared it all. And what I really want is Bill's reaction, because I know all of this, and I know how unique and special it is. It's Bill's first time hearing it. Bill, when you hear that, what do you think?
Yeah, I as I continue listening to it, all of that strategy is pulling out for me, right? You're living in the strategy domain, and when I hear and it's rooted into what you knew previously, right? I struggled to have that kid and have and to pay for it. I'm not going to let the people in my environment have that same experience, and I'm going to honor my grandmother and name a company as well as a child after her. And I'm going to step in and make sure that everybody knows this is exactly what we do. I'm not doing an outstanding thing for you. I am doing what the right thing is.
Right.
And I hear all of that resonates with me from the strategy point of view. And I'm married to a strategist, right? Somebody with very similar high strategy themes as you, and she lives in that domain. So listening to you talk about what you do and how you do it just reminds me of Renee and talking with her and seeing how she steps into it, because everything you're doing is not just for you, it's for the people around you. And I have to point out frequently when we're coaching groups that, my wife, and this is true for you because I keep hearing it, it's not that you aren't a people person because you're strategic. You want to strategize how to be better as a people person.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
the difference. And for you, that strategy comes across as being a very forward thinking leader and somebody that leads a group that we're going to take charge. We're not a nursery. I get that,
Right.
but we are going to absolutely have ways that everybody can
Yeah.
thrive and survive. I really want to hear from you though, because you mentioned as a fellow Gen Xer, I'm just going to keep pointing that out for you, Sarah. As a fellow Gen Xer, you said you love your individualization.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear all of that, I hear individualization in there too, because you're dicing and slicing it into those smaller parts. Can you touch on how you think individualization is played into that for you?
Yeah, I mean, now you all can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm
Mhm.
interpreting my strengths in the wrong way. But I think
If
it's
if you've coached with Sarah, there's no chance you're going to get this wrong. No chance. Sarah's way too good. Go on.
Also, Sarah doesn't believe in right and wrong, so
Right.
mm,
Exactly.
there you go. I think for me, it's like I feel like I do a good job at looking at each of my employees and being like, what do you need? So, I have my former boss, who was my first boss when I was 24. And when she came out of retirement 7 years ago, she's like, I don't want to be fully retired, but I do want to keep working. And so my individualization is like, of course, well, she should work, 3 days a week, maybe four. She should have flexibility to travel whenever she wants to travel. And the rules for her, right? Because she's been doing this for, at that time, she was 65. She doesn't have to follow the rigid 8:30 to 4:30 that maybe a 24-year-old would need to do. So I think that, and I think with all of our employees, right, we try to see what they need, like what benefit might you need that maybe somebody else doesn't need, right? And so sometimes, like, we have a house manager that works at Eleanor that helps people that need help with their kids, with their cooking, with their laundry. So that those individualization opportunities, while of course, obviously, as an employer, I have to keep things fair, but sometimes we just have to make things a little more customized to each employee.
Yeah. So good. Such a good description of individualization. And as I said, it's my number one. So every time like when I'm listening to you discuss how you've put your business together and how right, I'm dicing it and slicing it and
Mm-hmm.
thinking on the very specific things that you've done. And I think your description of it is just so powerful for how you've done it and how you're using it. So thank you for that part of it. I have a completely different question, Sarah, but this
Okay.
one's for you. So Christine, we don't always pull this curtain back, right? So I'm going to ask, how do you coach somebody that absolutely dominates in the high strategy fields, right? Because Christine is all about strategy when you look at where she's at and how she's going. And then she jumps into individualization and positivity. So there's that relationship side of it. So is there a keynote around coaching somebody with this much strategy?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Well, I think one of the things that I love about Clifton Strengths is the data that we can get from it. Because I think when we're talking to people with high relationship building, high influencing themes, sometimes they see assessments and they think, yes, I love this. This feels right, right? Sometimes those folks with really high strategy, they want proof. They want to know why, right? And so someone like Christine, she has a strategy superpower. Her top four are all strategy themes. And so as we know, Clifton strengths do not work in isolation and they impact each other. So with her having input, context, strategic, and learner, those like ball up together to create this really dynamic strategic superpower. And Bill, I loved how you talked about how she brings the strategy to people, but she also, inside of her business, the reason she's been able to build this beautiful big business that she has now is because she's been doing so much of the strategic work. She is really the strategic genius that has built Eleanor to help brands in their marketing, in their positioning, in their markets, right? And so knowing that those folks often need a little bit of evidence. Why does this work? And so I love strengths because one, we have data from Gallup that shows us this works. Focusing on what people do right can work. And right, so we've got the people who focus on their strengths are 6 times as more likely to be engaged at their jobs, or 3 times as likely to have an excellent quality of life. We also, when we're using those cascade reports and we're looking at the team, we are breaking down in a really strategic, analytical way. Here are our people. And so I think for me, I got to work with Christine and her team, and we do coaching. And sometimes it's nice to be able to fall back on that data component to be able to say, hey, let's look at, this person's strengths. If we're talking about someone on her team, hey, they're doing this and we've got some questions about it. Well, let's go look at the report to see if we can sort of analyze where that's coming from and then how do we work with it. So instead of just talking about, oh, this is how we feel and this is, what we think we should do, it really sort of can center it on data of, yes, it's hard to sort of put people down on a piece of paper, but that's really what we're able to do is say, okay, if we've got this person and they've got high command and high strategic and high harmony, how is that then coming out in their work? How is that an advantage for them? And how is that sometimes get in their way? And you, as their leader, what are some strategies that you can take with you to have those conversations that will be more effective in working with them and getting them to actually hear you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll jump in. I think Sarah for me is very helpful with my team, and pointing out maybe missing pieces and showing me, talking to me about their strengths is so helpful. And like that part I really need. I would say I don't know if I'm an easy person to personally coach, because I, my default forever has been that I'll just figure it out. So it's hard for me to come. She's like, "What's your big problem?" Or what do you need to really work on? Or da 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 da. And everything feels like not significant enough to bring up in a conversation. Like I'll figure it out, or I wouldn't tell you anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think she does a great, she's super patient with me, because I'm desperate's not the right word. I'm eager to learn how to be a better leader for my team, but I'm not super great at figuring out exactly what I need, because I'll just be like, I'll
Mm,
just do it.
mm,
But this
yeah.
is one of the things I think is so excellent about you, Christine, is you really do have that everything's figure outable sort of mindset, right? And you are
Mhm.
a supercharged, like, yeah, we've got all these little problems or all these little challenges, but no big deal. We'll just get through them. But
Yeah.
you are growth oriented. You want to grow.
Mhm.
You spend the time, the energy, the money to take time for yourself, to take time for your team. You know that there's more to go. You want that. So
Yeah.
even though at times you're like, okay, I'm at the table, but I don't know what to bring to the table.
I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're there. And
Yeah.
showing up is half the battle, right? It's like when we go to
Yeah.
work out, putting on our shoes, that's the hardest part. So you make
Yeah.
the commitment. And I think that is a great testament for anyone listening that might have that same, you are so determined and responsible and just like a get stuff done type of mentality. I think sometimes people like you don't invest in coaching and development and more of these growth oriented programs because they're like, no, I can do that. And I
Mhm.
think what you
Yeah.
see is there is more room to grow. And
Mhm.
I work with people who are not like me, who
Right.
operate in different ways. And I want to be able to invest in them. And as a leader, I then have to invest in myself because they'll do what they see. Not
Right.
just, I can't just say, you all need this, but I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up, I don't know that I'm easily coachable, right? Or I'm definitively coachable. I'm not certain exactly how, right? But when we see somebody maturely jump into input learner, like you just did, right? I don't know that I am a great coachable person, but when I learn, as I know that I can grow, I can take in the data, I can understand my people better.
Mhm.
That's when, for us, the coaching magic starts, right? And I asked Sarah that question about coaching, not because I don't know the answer for Sarah. We're trained in the same ways, more because I want to know what your reaction to that was. And that's the perfect reaction to that, right? Which is, there are times it may not be perfect for me, but if I can lean on a couple of these at those moments and ramp them up like input
Mhm.
learner, then I know now all of a sudden it makes total sense why I can understand more about the people around me, and I can bring in a coach like Sarah that will help me
Yeah.
understand that better. And then in the process, understand myself a little bit better. Right. There's understanding
Absolutely.
yourself is fantastic. Understanding the people around you is even bigger magic, right?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
stepping into both of those can be tough. And it's phenomenal that you found a wonderful coach to work with. And I'm available anytime. So just, I
You
meant
want a
Sarah.
different
That's good.
flavor. Stop
Right.
trying
Right.
to
You want to try
steal
some.
my clients.
That's such a good mark though. She's so amazing.
I know she
and,
is.
and she knows you pick on me. So that I like. All right. Go on. Yes. What were you going to
Okay,
say? I cut you
I
off.
have another question for Christine. You
Mm-hmm.
have belief at number 10, and
Mhm.
we've talked about this before. I would love for you to tell everyone listening, what does belief look like for you? Because, and Bill, I would love to hear how you describe
Mm-hmm.
belief. Belief is an executing theme. The way
Mm-hmm.
I describe it to people is oftentimes people with high belief, they have a value system and that's how they get things done. But I like to describe it as this inner knowing. They have something that is this inner knowing that that's how they do everything through. And some people know right on the top what their belief system is. Some people don't. Some people who have it are like, I don't know what this is because maybe it's too ingrained or they've never like parsed it out. So sometimes when we're coaching, we really have to dig into what is that belief system. But it's so important because what I find is they can be living and doing things with this belief system and everything's going fine until someone hits it and there's friction. And people, whether it's you or the person, are like, what's happened? We have always gotten along great. Now all of a sudden we've got this bam. right? And so that's how I always describe belief to people.
Yeah.
Bill, how do
Yeah.
you describe it? And then Christine, what does it look like for you? And what is that belief knowing for you?
Yeah. I love working with belief people. I love working with all the themes as we build on them, but belief people I find extra interesting because I actually have very low belief. It's not high in mine. So I get to spend a lot of time working on it and talking to people. And I love describing it. Sarah, your description I think is fantastic. I often describe it as high belief people. They have that flag and they're going to stick it in the sand and it's right here. Right. And I am going to rally around this flag. And for you, it will take heaven and earth to get me to move this flag to another spot because I wholeheartedly believe in what this is, right? And it's not. It doesn't have to always be, I'm going to stab you in the face, but it's, hey, we'll just agree to disagree, right? The belief theme used to be called faith in Gallup's world, and they took it out for the obvious religious connotation because they didn't want it to have that religious flair to it. But I think belief encompasses it a little better in that, with that flag part, right? The knitting circles have high belief because crochet is the devil's salad, right? That, knitters
Okay, if
knit,
that wasn't a
right?
boomer thing to say, I don't know what was.
Just, maybe I dance on the line. I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah, I
say,
think you
but
dance on the line.
I have a belief that what I believe in and how I want to back it and I want to support it is important to me. And I can move it, but it will take effort, right? We have to work on that together. So that's how I break it down. Christine, you've heard two different slightly what variations on it. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I can talk about how I feel like it shows up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, so justice and being just is like the core of my belief system. And I think there are so many things that can happen to people that just happen to them. They have no control over them, right? So, like, I think about my life. My birth mom was 16 when she had me, and I was adopted into this family. Well, when I was adopted into that family, my dad was already dying from Agent Orange,
Mm.
from Vietnam.
Wow.
And my mom had already they were in the Grand Island tornadoes. My mom had a lot of struggles, and there was just like constant, that my dad ended up passing away. There's constant things that happened in our family that were out of control. That were just like they just happened. They were bad things that just happened. So I think for me, it's like when people do bad things, like intentionally, right? They're intentionally harming someone else, or they're intentionally making their life harder. That's when I'm like, my belief is on fire. Like, I can't handle it because I think life is hard enough, right? Like, life is hard enough for everybody. Everybody's going to have their thing. I mean, I will just say one of my favorite sayings is, I've got a sad story too, work harder. So I mean, I'm like,
Wow.
I hear
Ouch.
sad stories, but I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, but I do think this has shaped me, right? So for me, it's like everybody's going to have a hard time. But if you're intentionally making it harder, so if employers are intentionally paying their people less than market rate, if employers are not paying for maternity leave, if employers are making their employees do tasks and work, all weekend long and not being thankful for them, like that's where we I'm not here for it. Like, I'm going to let you know. And so my team, like, where it gets ugly for me, I would say, if I feel like, say somebody emails me and they're like, I just don't know if we should pay this invoice, but they have communicated that we've done the work, we've done a good job, we're a great team to work with. This has only happened one time, by the way. Like, I will fire off faster than you can imagine because I'm defending my team. Um, And it's not always like the best way, right? Like, so if I think something's unjust, like that's where I've got to like take a step back, like just take some breaths, think about it, use some of my other great strengths, and then go in for a conversation. But I'm the defender. Like, that's where my belief is. Like, I will protect my team, my kids, my family, my friends. Like, once you're in my world, like, I'm going to protect you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where my belief comes. And then it's just not super pretty if I feel like I got to fight, you know? So I'm 45. I'm much calmer.
I'm so happy I'm in Christine's world. She's fighting my Gen X flag with me, right? So I'm glad I got into that. And thank you for that. And that honesty. That's a really good representation of belief. And I feel at least pretty good, Sarah, that both of us had a great ramp into that. I could see both of those being very relevant for your breakdown into belief. And I that's a hard story to tell, and I am going to steal from you. I have a sad story too. Work harder. I think that's a really, really good comment. So,
It's so great. And what I love about what Christine said is, you know, we talk about talent times investment equals strength, right? So the idea that we're born with these talents, but I also think our life experiences shape those, as you heard from Christine's story. And I think she had probably that belief talent, and those life experiences only sort of doubled down on it. But she's also had to invest in it to get that belief to be more mature.
yeah,
So, right, you could hear her say, hey, in the past, if someone had done something that was this injustice that felt unfair to my people, I would come after them hot.
yeah,
Right? That's that raw belief out in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
nope.
Yeah.
yeah,
But now she's invested in it more, right? Invested in the development where she can say, she can get an email, say, and she is pissed. Oh, no, you didn't. But instead of firing off the email like she wants to, she's able to turn the volume down on belief and turn up input, context, strategic, and learner and go, okay, I have to think about this. What is going to be more successful in getting the outcome I want?
yeah,
Still defending, still using that belief, but letting some of the other strengths come in play. And then I'll send the email. And
yeah.
that's how we
I want to
invest.
interject because Sarah's making it sound like I'm really good at this about letting my other strengths. So I will tell you, last week I fired off an email without reading the whole email, and I just let people know how I felt right away. And I shouldn't have, because I was like, oh, I should have read the whole email. So it's like
Ah,
for me, belief is like it is it is the hardest part for me. It's like it's something I have to work on every day. Like, I am just like, it's so good on so many levels and so not good.
yeah. So good.
Well, and that's
Yeah,
where we say our strengths are also usually the things that get in our way the most, right? They are really the
Yeah.
true weaknesses of us, is when they're in overdrive or they're not showing up.
yeah,
And so it's like, yeah, that belief, and we're a work in progress, right? This is when we did high performing teams with Christine's team. I was like, hey, I'm here for 16 weeks, but when I leave, it's not over, because it's never over, because this development journey is forever. It's like working out and eating right. You can do it successfully for 2 months, but if you stop for 3 months, like you're back at the beginning.
love it, love it. And I don't want to take your responsibility out of that either, right? On that,
Oh gosh, yeah.
right?
I know.
How that plays out. And I see it in there. I can hear it in you. Hey, I'm going to fire those emails. By the way, Sarah joked earlier, she called me and I answered. I was sitting at a Starbucks and I was like, oh, hey, fine, good, oh, we can talk on the phone. Congratulations. And she dropped on me that I had sent an email without reading it, which I had.
Yeah.
And there was some incorrect information in it. And because, see, for me, the relationship theme stuff, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
no. I happened to be sitting with the person that I had sent the email to. So I was able to correct it immediately. But there are, as a big relationship person, I can take that really hard. And on your end of it, with all of the strategy, you're like, I'm going to send it and You know what? I'm glad it worked. Or it didn't. We're okay, right? Does
Well,
that feel reasonable?
sometimes there's follow-up emails of like, I am sorry. That's where my responsibility comes in. So that
Yeah.
one it's in, specifically was I apologize that I responded so quickly. I did not read your whole email. And so yeah,
Got it.
I do think responsibility, people ask me like, how do I get so much done? Because in my younger years, I was like running marathons and cycling and raising five kids and doing all the things. And they're like, how do you do this? And then we learned, that discipline and consistency are like at the bottom of your strengths. And I'm like, oh, it's responsibility. Like if I tell somebody I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. So I run with my friends. I set meetings on the calendar. I tell people I'm doing things. But if I don't tell you I'm doing anything, I'm probably watching Netflix.
Yes. But
Good.
you point
That's
out such
good.
a
Yeah.
great thing. Responsibility often needs a trigger of someone else to get it to go,
Yeah.
right? It's that, like you said, you have to tell someone you're going running with them. You have to put the meeting on the calendar because if you don't, then you won't get as much done. Also, let's not forget you've got a ranger. So you're also just master coordinator of all the things, right? The
Yeah.
way the arranger and responsibility show up for you is just
Yeah. And
of
Right.
it
productivity.
really is like, it is such chaotic productivity, right?
Yeah.
Nobody else can understand it, but my brain is like
Yeah.
always, always going,
Yeah.
and yeah,
I love it. And you also, my number two theme is developer. It's high for you. It's in your top 10. And I keep hearing it. I was a cyclist and a business person, and my responsibility puts me there. But sometimes we can aim developer back at us. Right. So I
mm,
cycled a lot for a long time. So I had to develop not only the people around me and the people I worked with, but myself as well. And I see that developer when you're talking about I need to help the people, right, with
mm-hmm,
healthcare and this is how we do it. It's part of that. It fuels that responsibility developer. Those supercharge each other, and so many clients we work with on
yeah,
I say it, it's going to happen. We're going to do it, and I get fueled because I'm developing. I'm watching you get better at it. But I do think this leads directly into a really good question for you. And this is a segment that we absolutely love pulling up. So we've talked about how you manage, how you do it well, how strategic works, how your individualization allows you to really get good things out of people and understand things about them. How your belief is made you a rock when you need to be, and how you can step in and how those all come to play. I'm just curious, when are strengths a dumpster fire for you? Right? When is a time when you found a strength and you just went, that was wrong. And I get you brought up the email. That might be your dumpster fire
yeah.
moment. I don't know, but I'm going to leave it to you to tell us, because our strengths can get in our way. So I'm curious when that might have played out for you.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the dumpster fire for me. I mean, that's the strength that's caused the most problems is like shooting off the email because I feel like something's unfair. And by golly, I want it to be fair.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that that's a dumpster fire. I would say sometimes, like, because my context and input and learner are so high, like, I get to know people maybe faster on the team than I should, in a sense of like I'm asking them questions and people haven't asked them questions, and then like, not that we have high turnover, really, we really don't, but sometimes I feel like maybe I've gotten more connected to a person and I'm like, oh, they don't really work out on this team, and then it's really hard for me because I feel connected to them, but now it's going to be hard. I do think that's where that learner input context has maybe created bonds that I'd say a normal person might do in a year's time, but I can do that in like a month because I want to know them. And
Yeah.
so I think that's helped me as a leader. Now I've learned to like slow your roll, especially with the new interns, and it's not like anything's inappropriate, right? It's just my curiosity and wanting to develop them and wanting to see if they're right fit. But then it's like, ooh, they're not a right fit. This is real awkward because I feel more attached to them than maybe I should.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So very, very good. And I, I do the same thing with developers. Sometimes I'm over invested in
Mm-hmm.
people. I often have to tell myself I can't care more than they do. I'm
Right.
coaching a
Yes.
huge group of young ladies at a private school,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's 35 coming, but only as of this morning, 20 of them have taken the assessment, right? And
Yeah.
we're sending emails, we're pumping, we're pushing, we're hard, and I'm getting destroyed by it, and they're like, we're fine. It's okay. We'll get there. And so I tend to be, I can be that way. And I hear that in your voice, maybe I was there. Maybe I set that up, and I feel your pain. I do.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, but I tell myself the same thing. I can't care more than they do.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got to do their own thing, make their own decisions. I got to support and
Right.
guide and lead.
And you have a sad story. So work harder, get moving. Come on. I mean,
I'm probably going to get really roasted for saying that, but
no,
you know,
not on this podcast. I'm stealing. We write down all the good ones. We're gonna have them, and then we'll rate them. And at the end of the year, we'll send a bottle of wine to the winner, right? So you're in the lead right now. I'm just saying, at least on my desk. So
I love it.
yeah.
Okay, Christine, we always like to throw out a fun question to our guests. So let me get yours pulled up here. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
You're tasked with planning the ultimate surprise party for Beyonce using only your top 10 strengths. How do you pull it off?
Well, first I would interview Beyonce and I'd ask her, who does she want to be at the party? Who makes her the happiest? Because we don't want anybody there that's not going to make her happy.
Mm.
I'd ask her what environment she's most comfortable in and secure the venue. I'd work with the best, event planner in New York or wherever she wants her party to be. And we'd have only the best food, the best drinks. We'd probably ask if Taylor could come, just because Sarah, you like Taylor. No,
I love Taylor. I
do you
love Taylor.
Okay.
Tay,
This
I'm
is
all
just
in.
the
Yeah.
Taylor Swift podcast now? Okay.
Oh yeah. We're all in on Taylor. Beyonce, pish bosh. Taylor. So,
Okay, don't say that. We don't want the beehive coming for us, Bill.
No. The Beehive Nation will be mad. I did not mean it that way. They're
Beyonce.
both phenomenal. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely ask all the questions and then I would just make sure it happened. So let my learner kick in and a ranger would just be just on fire for the whole thing because it'd be a big party. So yeah, that's what I do. I'd make it happen for Beyonce.
The
I
bad
love
thing
it.
is, I don't think you would get to enjoy the party because I feel like
That's
you would be
okay.
working the whole
I don't
party.
really
You'd be like,
I don't like parties. You like parties.
No.
You like
Oh.
to go to the party.
Oh.
I like to run the party. Like
well, good.
I don't have that, like, especially too as I get older, I don't have the relaxed element very well. It's something I could probably work on, but yeah, I definitely want to run the party. That would bring me the most joy.
If I could
But
tell
this
you
is a great
stories.
question for you.
Yeah. If I could tell you stories of Sarah's party history. Oh. Oh.
She loves a good party.
She does. She does
She
like a
has
good party.
woo, guys. She can't
Yes.
help it. She's a victim, you know?
Yes. She's a victim of her strengths now. Oh, okay. That's perfect.
She's a victim.
Totally get it. Christine, I have absolutely loved getting to meet you today. So thank you so much for coming, hanging out, defending my Generation X statehood, making sure it's well known in our podcast community that I am picked on. And now we have proof. And
Another sad story. Just chalk it up to another sad story.
Yep.
to work.
And now I just get to work harder. I get it. So I can't thank you enough. Sarah, what do you think?
Well,
Yes, I of course adore Christine. I always have, and I'm just so fortunate to know her and to get to be in relationship with her here in the community. Christine, tell the people, where can they find you? Where can they find Eleanor? Give us the shout outs to all the things that people can find you if they say, I need to hire this company ASAP.
Or
Sure.
work for this company based
Or
on all
work
of the
for this
great stuff
company.
that they're, yeah.
Seriously, if she ever wants
Um,
to hire me, hello, available.
Hmm. Hmm.
well, I do hire you, Sarah.
No, I meant like permanently, you know.
You can find us at weareeleanor.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Christine Weeks, and we're on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, but just if you want to connect with me specifically, LinkedIn is the best place to do that. So thank you
LinkedIn. And
both.
it's
You're
Christine
wonderful.
Weeks. It's Christine
Christine
Weeks on
Weeks.
LinkedIn.
That's right. Yep. You both are wonderful. Thank you so much. This was fun. I learned some things. I will say I never thought about developer in a personal way
Hmm.
before. So that
Mhm.
was, yeah. I always think about it about the others,
Mhm.
developing others. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Oh, look at, our podcast. Actually, somebody learned something. Sarah,
Ta-da!
I feel like our job here is done. We could just move on. So
We've
I
done
love
it.
it. Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here every other week, bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com. Follow her on Instagram at Sarah Coach Collins, or email her at sarah at wearecollinsco.com. SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dipple Coach, or email him at bill at BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.